combinations. But this is like what we kind of decided was the bare minimum we needed. So we scouted, we collected data, and then we created a list of teams that could do 1 stack of 5. We got like a list of 6 or 7 teams that could do this, but one team kind of stood out to us, and that's 968 here. So this is going to sound a little weird, but this is actually from our scouting data. It's a graph of 968's performance in the competition. So stack height is, stack height is in purple, and then you can see the stack number and the amount of bin stacks. And you can kind of see it kind of goes up and down, and near the end, they improve. So we noticed that. We saw they've been getting better as the competition went on. And we saw that they've done a stack of 5 before, and it was binned. So, this kind of made sense to us. If we had them do 1 stack of 5 with a bin, we could win this event. But we might have to help them fix stuff, or we might, need to help them along the way, but we could do it. So we were lucky enough that 254 and 973 picked another robot that could do stacks, but they didn't play them really. They just had them sit in the corner, and they didn't really do anything. But we had 968 play. And you can kind of see, this was the finals match. If my internet's not too slow, I will try to play the last
This is so intense.
couple of seconds.
Let's say also the music too.
The music was super good. Oh my god.
I was sad that this year they didn't have the music.
Yeah.
Like if you...
The music request.
Yeah, so if you take a look over here, you can see 254 is somewhere behind these, 254 is right there. And this is our lines. So my robot's over here and 968 right there. They're placing their first and final stack on the
Is that your sketch stack or is that like the...
no.
That one's the hardest.
Sketch stack is the last one. But as you can kind of see right now, the other alliance is winning. By a margin of 60 points, right? But like the field kind of looks the same. It looks like we've done the same amount of stacks, or it seems really even, right? Hopefully this will fit.
That's funny is when
That's the difference of allowing into 6 stacks, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The music isn't playing, so we barely get essentially 10 points above them, and then now you see 968 places a stack, and we get a pretty big lead on them, 20 points. Does that make sense?
Oh, this is the sketch stack.
Yeah.
No, it's like the fact that this alliance was so close to not winning and winning at the same time. It was like every single thing mattered and everything worked on yours and not everything worked on theirs.
Yeah, but we chose a team that could do one thing and do it well, and then we made sure they did it. So this is why scouting is important, right? You can make informed decisions about what you do. You can dictate how strategy goes, and then you can win events, which is all we want, right? To win. So yeah, we won by 4 points, which is a very... It was very intense, but so that's why.
But it was predicted though too, if you think about it. And that's what.
It's actually not. Doing the math, it doesn't work out exactly, but that's why scouting.
that was the chance where that thing could have
All right, so
That was the best session.
all right. So how do you get successful scouting habits? Right. This is something that's hard to start off from. When I joined Code Orange, it wasn't very organized and everything. But on my old team, I was head scout and I was drive coach. So I wanted to help Code Orange, forward and help improve our scouting. So we came up with a plan on how to do this. So it was a 5-step plan, and this is actually similar to how we develop our robots. We first, plan. We do game analysis. Then we implement what we planned. So we create a scouting system, and we decide if we want to pit scout, if we want to do pre-scouting, if we want to do mat scouting. And I'll go through all this in detail. And then we collect our data, and then we analyze it for alliance selection and for strategy. And then the most important part, out of all of this, the most important step is number 5, which is iteration. So what iteration means is you take what you have learned from doing all these steps, from collecting, from analyzing, and you see what worked and what didn't work. And iteration doesn't need to happen in 1 year. It can happen across many years. If you see that, last year you did a lot of pit scouting, but the data you didn't get was correct. Next year you can go in, not doing much pit scouting, getting a couple of bare bone things, and then figuring out that data later on. So iteration is a very key step in this entire process for us especially. So let's start off with plan and game analysis. So I know it seems a little counterintuitive, but first start off with what kinds of information would be useful when you're playing the game. Even if this is early on in the season, like week 1 or week 2 of build season, figure out like what's useful. What can we use it for? That's an important question. Because a lot of teams and a lot of scouting systems have data that's not really useful, right? That looks cool. Like in this year, the number of low goals crossed. That seems like a good scouting metric, right? But does that really matter? Or like not low goals, sorry, low bar crossings, right? Is that really useful for you to know? Like if another team could go across 100 low bar like 5 times. For us, it really wasn't, so we have to take that out. But you need to know if your information is useful and how easy is it to use with other data and by like a drive coach. On a lot of teams, like on Code Orange, the drive coach and the scouting students are completely separate. So the head scout sends data to the drive coach, and the drive coach needs to take that data and make their own strategy with that, right? So you don't want to just have a bunch of numbers and just a bunch of metrics that someone else can't understand. All right? So you have to first start off with that, and then you need to figure out how that information can be broken out. So there are kind of 2 types of data. There is qualitative data and quantitative data. Can anyone describe the difference? I know I say it up here, but not you, but anyone else? Like, can you tell me the difference between qualitative data and quantitative data? Anyone? All right, John.
Quantitative data is like a number of something. It's like what the root says, like the quantity or something that somebody can do. And qualitative is like the way they do it.
Yeah, right? So can anyone give me an example of qualitative data? Do you have an example of qualitative data? Like this? Like anyone here? Qualitative data. Like what's an example of qualitative data? Yeah?
I don't know.
Oh,
Like if they can make high goals or not?
well, is that qualitative? Because you can kind of find a quantity of high goals they made, right? So that'd be quantitative data, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, John?
I mean, for our team, qualitative data is like if we're looking at a team and how they drive. Do they zip around like a lot in the courtyard, or do they go back and forth?
Yeah, so controlled motion, right? Like seeing how well a team drives. That's very important data to know, but it's hard to get a number from that. Does that make sense? Anyone else? Any of you guys? Do you have any ideas of qualitative data or quantitative
It's
data?
like the opinion you get when you watch a match.
Yeah. Any ideas? All right. So qualitative data and yes.
So how about the drivers and are they working together well?
Yeah, that's another very good one. It's hard for scouts to see that, right? But you can gather that information from your drive team.
Like communication during driving?
Yeah, communication during driving. Seeing how both teams mesh together in a match. That can be very important later on, but it's hard to gather that by looking at a match or seeing the numbers, right? So you need to kind of break out how that information, is it qualitative or quantitative? And then you need to rank which information is more important to have than others. I know this seems a little silly and, let's just collect all the data, right? Why not? But sometimes it's, if you have 100 things to check off, you kind of do half of those things and, not even half of those things well. But if you have 4 things to check for a robot, right, you can do it really well and you can, get some really interesting data off of that. So figure out what you need. So in, the 2016 game, it's kind of necessary to know if a team can make high goal shots, right? So you can see how many high goal shots a team makes. And then another important metric is can they scale, right? And then everything else is important, but it doesn't have to be as important as everything else. Yeah, it depends on your own strategy and what you think you want in an alliance robot. So, and this should, again, this process should repeat often. We did this essentially once every week during build season, where we would go back to this list, and depending on what happened that week, right? If we decided that, high goal scoring was, way too hard for teams to do, maybe we should look for other data. We would, kind of modify our rankings, or we would add more, we need to get this data, or we would take out data that we might need, right? So just iterate through this. Yes.
Would that involve the entire team, or would that be just your scouting?
That depends on what your process. So a lot of these things is kind of what we did on Code Orange, but this is, do what works for you. And I know that sounds very vague, but it's different teams work differently. right? So it's, we did this within our scouting team. So it was me and 3 other students. And then we went through this every week. But other like mentors and other students, if they wanted to have input, they could. But generally they didn't want to have input because it's scouting, right? And then to game analysis. So this is kind of an example for a stronghold. So useful information would be balls, climb, defense, and auto. If their elimination's ready, and if they have robot issues, right? And now we can break this up into did they climb, how many batteries they have, all this stuff. And then for qualitative, how well did a team cross a defense, and what robot issues did they have? This is part of what we like. This isn't exactly the entire list we have, but this is essentially what we have. And then this is how we rank them. We wanted to know how many gores could they score in the high goal. What robot issues, because if you're picking a team, you kind of want to know if you can fix them if they have an issue, right? So, just an example.
So this is kind of like a wish to match for type of list?
Yeah, exactly. So this is very heavily influenced by our team's design. Like, this is how we design our robots. We, kind of decide what we think a robot should do, what would be important in a match, and we rank it by like how easy is it to gather and how important it is to do. So it really parallels how we design things on our team. And then back to quantitative data. Quantitative data is much easier to gather, right? You can easily count the number of balls a team scored. But qualitative data can provide more information, right? Knowing if a team is good under pressure. It's hard to gather, but it's very useful. Knowing if a team can go from point A to point B without getting distracted, without bumping into other robots is very important too, right? Seeing if a team can play defense is important, but it's hard to measure. But you have to like do a trade-off of what data is important, what data is easy to collect. And then get rid of unneeded data or whatever. And then one thing that teams, it's hard to think of, is to see if other teams are ready to compete in a match or to compete in eliminations. And what we do to get data on this is figure out the amount of batteries and chargers a team has. Because if a team doesn't have as many batteries and chargers, they're going to have a tougher time during eliminations, right? Or you would want to pick another team that had a lot of batteries and chargers so you can lend it to the other team on your legs. And robot weight. If you have a lot of top tier teams like 1678 and 254, they make things to put on other robots. We really don't, but this is just something that teams do.
Like for this year, teams would make nets to block balls.
Yeah, or climbers. Some teams actually put climbers on other robots, championships and stuff. Last year they had bin grabbers. Yeah. They call it cheesecake, by the way. That's the term, cheesecake. Now we get to the implementation phase. So there are different systems that work for different people, right? So there's pen and paper reports. There are Excel or Google Sheets, and then phone apps and websites. And I can do another entire lecture on this entire process because I really love this kind of stuff. But I'm not going to be going through all of it. I'll be showing kind of what we use. And you can ask questions about that. But we use the website. And then what you need to use is a system that will be robust and easily maintainable. And there are lots of trade-offs with the different systems. For example, with pen and paper, it's easy to use. It's not technology. You can find paper right here. You can find paper anywhere. And it's simple to set up. You can just hand out one sheet per person, and they can take a pen and they can make notes. But it's harder to enter into Excel, or it's harder to interpret yourself, right? And reports have to be manually generated, and paper can be lost. Paper can be ruined. Paper data can be destroyed. But electronic systems, on the other hand, easily can take your data and it can create different metrics and numbers that you can use. It has fast communication times between the pits and the stands, so that you can send the data over internet to the stands, right? So the scouts and the drive coach have that data, and you can have redundancy, so you can save your data and it doesn't get lost. But then you have the cons. You need power. That's something paper doesn't need, right? Paper will work essentially everywhere at any time. And you need technical experience. You need programming, people who can program websites or program an Android app. You need people who can deal with that kind of stuff. And you do need the laptops and tablets, which are a big investment in resources. So it's it's tough to kind of decide what you want to use, but don't try to do something because you think it's flashy. Use something that you know will work for you. But this is kind of what we use. This is our web. This is not like exactly to the website. This is a screenshot I took. But our scouts could, click on if they wanted to increase the boulders. Everything went up. And then we gathered, how many times they crossed over the different defenses, and saw if a robot stopped, if it tipped over, if it was dead, and we kind of figured out like, okay, did the robot like climb all the way? Did they stop halfway? And did they like not climb at all? Because stopping halfway is also important, right? Because like if you just had like a true or false, if the team can climb, some teams, like our team actually, we couldn't like climb all the way in OCR during eliminations, or sorry, during qualifications. Like so, if you look at our OCR, it looked like we didn't climb at all during qualifications, but we did. Like we went half the way. But we fixed that issue, and during eliminations, we're able to climb all the way. And that's something to know, because if you see another team that's like that, you can kind of fix them up, and you can, it'll be better for your entire alliance. Yeah.
So for scouting apps like this, have you ever had moments where you see no data? Like the shadows have missed some match, I guess, or some extent?
Yes.
How do you mitigate that? Or will that come up?
So yeah, it comes into culture. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But yes, that does happen, and you need to plan around that, either in the website or otherwise. And this is how we kind of look at our data. We have like a ranking system where we can rank by the average auto high goal. This is from Chelsea Champs, by the way. So, and we have like shot accuracy and how many high goals they can make a match, and so on and so forth. And we have more data on the side, but I just haven't to show it all. And then we had like reports on every team. So we could like, see, like that graph I showed you about 968, like how many goals they, we made, and different numbers. And this is like our pit scouting information. We didn't pit scout ourselves, of course, because we kind of know that information. But like, we would have the weight of the robot, the number of batteries, and batteries charged simultaneously. And something like this can really help someone in, doing strategy, right? Because they can take a quick look at this, and they can see what the team is good at and what they're not good at. And you can also kind of see if a team does better over time, right? So if you kind of notice, around match 40, we fixed a lot of problems, right? Like we started making more shots, we started getting our auto, but before that, we weren't consistent whatsoever. So it's like with graphs and some of that kind of measurements, you can like visually see what's going on. Anyone have any questions so far, or any,
Why do you only collect those 3 bits of data for pit scouting?
Oh, because everything, so in pit scouting, I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, I think. I think it's coming up, but if not, I'll answer that. But pit scouting isn't really accurate. Oh, it's actually right here. All right, so there are, essentially 3 different types of scouting, right? There's pre-scouting, pit scouting, and match scouting. So pre-scouting, this is gathering data about a team before the competition even starts. So this seems a little weird, but this is essentially almost only useful for championships and for like IRI and stuff. But this is only useful if teams have actually competed, right? You can't gather data on a team that hasn't competed yet. And it's just to it's nice to have an idea of what to expect going in. And it's also nice to have your scouting students be prepared about the teams they're going to see. So at championships, there are like 75 teams in each division. 75. At LA, you have like 650. Like 75 is quite a bit. So it's nice to have your kids kind of like know the different teams that are competing, and it's nice to see all that. And now we have pit scouting. So back to John's question. So we do pit scouting for a couple of reasons. It's a good way of exposing students to the competition as a whole. So I know all of you probably have trouble getting new students to come in and look at what's going on. It's a bit scary, right? The pits are terrifying because you don't want to disturb someone and you want to look at the cool robots, but they're like they have stern faces and they're doing stuff. But if you give them like a job to do, like a couple of questions to ask, they will get exposed to what's going on and they will gain confidence, right? But we generally don't ask about robot performance because people lie. And they don't lie on purpose, but if you ask one of our students in the pit, how are robots doing, right? We'd be like, oh yeah, it's fine, we fixed all the problems. But we still have a bunch of problems that we don't either know about or that we're kind of ignoring. So pit scouting is like kind of very flawed in that sense. But we do get their robot weight, a picture of their robot, and then the battery counts. And then we have mass scouting. I didn't put anything here for mass scouting, but we talked about mass scouting right now, right? You can get qualitative data and quantitative data that you guys collect. And it's data doesn't lie, right? A team can say whatever they say, but it's really their performance on the field that counts. And we all kind of know that. So now it comes to the collect phase, and this is working together as a team. So and it differs from team to team, depending on students available and what teams think are necessary. But we have one student looking at one robot. So we have 6 students in total, one looking at each robot. And then we have one head scout watching the entire match for high-level strategy. So we're looking to see, okay, if this alliance, they work together to herd balls into this one area, so another good team could shoot them into the high goal. So work together. Because a lot of the strategy is stuff that we can use and you guys can use, right? So one of the most famous mentors in first, I guess, his name is Mike Corsetto. He's from 1678. His, I think, most famous line is, steal from the best, invent the rest, right? Why reinvent the wheel if it's, there? So take strategy from other teams and learn from those other teams. And, this is what 1678 does. They have one student per robot, and they have one super scout per alliance. And they look at each alliance for strategy. And this is, more intense than what we do with one head scout looking over everything. But you can get individual strategies. You can kind of get like how robots move together, and you can kind of get everyone being invested in what's going on, right? Because we all want to be a part of the team, and scouting is how you can contribute really meaningfully to what's going on. So if you have a lot of students, you can do all this stuff. You can look at high-level strategy. You can try to analyze how teams are moving around on the field, how they're interacting, and stuff all of you guys can do. And it's also about getting the best data, right? So bad data is often worse than no data. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? Because you can get a team this team, they can get 7 high goals, they can climb, they can have they can have a 2-ball auto, but they could have been accidentally scouting a different robot, right? And you get a team that can't do anything. They're just sitting on the ground. So good data comes from happy scouts, right? And happy scouts come from California cheese. Never mind. Have you guys seen the ad? Right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of hard because culture is hard to change. But try to create a culture where scouts are respected. Scouting is a very hard job. It's very tolling. But make sure that everyone from the mentors to kids in the pits to the kids driving know that scouting really does help what's going on in the competition and is really important. And I've seen on teams that I have a lot of friends complain to me oh my students aren't giving me good data, but I've seen how they treat their students in terms of scouting oh, scouting doesn't matter and stuff. So that kind of makes sense, right? Try to create an atmosphere where scouting is valued and you will get valuable data. And do something special, right? So I bought Starbucks for all my kids at Champs because why not? And it's everyone's happy and I'm happy because I like Starbucks and it's all good.
Those rewards, man.
Oh yeah,
We should do
Oh,
that.
so many rewards. Yeah, for free Starbucks,
Oh,
right?
she gave us, okay, she gave us.
And then we also give out candy for our students during competitions. So other teams actually, I know 1114, Symbiotics, they're from Canada, a very good team. What they do is they have something called Symbox, where they kind of, I believe they kind of place bets on what teams are going to win, separate matches, and they have dollars they can accumulate during the competition, and they can redeem those dollars for ice cream during lunch. And that's something special that drive team or pit crew doesn't get, but scouts who are attentive and who can kind of see what's going on, they can get. And this builds a kind of a mini competition, right? And who doesn't like competition? That's why we're all here. So, and also give students an ownership of their task, and so they have a sense of pride, and often a better job is done. So I have a student who what he does is he, kind of looks at one robot. He kind of decides like, okay, this is one robot I'm going to focus on the entire event. And by the time we get to talking about what teams we want, he's an expert on them. Whether they can do lots of high goal shots, or whether they can just they're broken all the time, or they can play good defense. But he's an expert on them because that was his task, and he did it. So finding a way to give students ownership, and just people in general ownership of their activity, often results in better results.
But if you can't do it for each individual scout, you should do it as an entire scouting team. The scouting team, did that.
Yeah, because it's an important job, right? It's in the end you can maybe get one robot that you pick, but it's that robot, no matter if you don't make it to eliminations, or if you don't make it past quarterfinals, that robot did contribute to the entire alliance, and you guys did a great job. And so that's what really matters in the end, right? Winning is fun, but we're here to learn a lot, and we're here to get an experience about what's kind of going on. And then to the you have to analyze the data you get, right? Because you can kind of get data, but if you do nothing with it, it's useless too. So it's useful to inform how teams should play. So in 2014, who here was a student? Actually, wait, who here was a student in 2014? Anyone a freshman? All right. So you guys kind of remember the game, right? Where you had to have teams. You had one ball per alliance, okay? And only one ball per alliance. And you have to pass it between different robots to get more points. So it was useful to see, what teams were better at shooting it into the high goal, or what teams were better at, throwing it over this giant truss. And that kind of informed our team's, decisions on, okay, we should play in the back, okay, or this team should be in the center, or this team should be the forward. And it's also good to identify where you're falling short, because it's not always about, figuring out what teams are good. It's about, making yourself better. So this year, we realized that, from looking at the scouting data, that we weren't really good at shots that were kind of, near the tower, and we're kind of in the middle. We kept on missing those. So we decided not to do that. After that, we kind of stayed away from that area if we could, because we were able to identify that issue. And when you're a drive team, drive team member, and you're looking at that, you kind of are like, okay, we miss it once, whatever. And every time you miss it, you kind of forget about it. But in scouting, you can kind of see okay, I can see that we're missing this a lot, so maybe I'll talk to them, and you can find an issue. It turned out that the issue was we were vision tracking our the Alliance Station glass. So the reflection from the glass was being projected onto the Alliance Station glass, and we're vision tracking that, so it messed us up. So that was our issue, and we were able to find that and fix that. So yeah, if you see us say that shot now, it's because we fixed it. You're able to identify that problem because of the scouting. And you can also figure out how you can help teams fulfill their potential. So this is something that 3309 and us did this year at OCR, where our third pick was C220. They were a rookie team. They had a drive base that it was fully custom, but they just had a drive base. But what our data said was they never got stuck on the rough terrain, and they had very controlled driving. They might have just been able to play defense, and they kind of just crossed defenses in qualifications. But we were able to get this data, and we figured out that a blocker would be good for them, and that they should only go over the rough terrain. Everything else was kind of a hazard, so they should just go over the rough terrain. And they were able to fulfill that role really well because of what our data said. Yeah.
Something also from our side was that they never got fouls, which is important, especially for elims. That if your third bot is doing something as intensive as that, especially blocking, you need to make sure that they get out, they know the rules well enough. And what I did was I went over and made sure that they do that. But if you have a team that's making fouls and incurring points, that could just ruin your alliance no matter what type of strategy you have.
Yeah, that's a very good point that I haven't talked about, because it's kind of hard to, when you're scouting, it's very loud, and the announcer says it's sort of foul and stuff. But keeping a track of if a team does something wrong is very important too, because it can, it's a red flag. Actually happened at Champs this year, where it was a fault on our part, kind of, where our fourth pick, they got stuck on this one defense twice. We didn't pick 916, they did. Weird. So yeah, make sure you have enough teams. 32 teams at champs or at Manchester champs or IRI because they have alliances of 4. And to do not pick list, well, you guys have probably heard of it, right? Do not pick list. Teams that like have fallen over multiple times or blah 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 blah. But is it something that's useful? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very
Yes
limited.
and no. If you have a pick list, then you don't need a do not pick list because you already have a pick list.
But do not pick lists can be like generated during scouting, right? Like I
2015
But what
we
can
had
happen,
that.
Ashley, is like he said, where you have not enough teams on the list, and all of a sudden you're having to pick from what's left.
Yeah.
And you don't know which ones, you don't remember which ones fell over consistently.
yes. So do not pick lists. Like in 2015 we had they did too like enormous do not pick lists. But then it got so big that you had like more teams on the do not pick list than you had on the pick list. And then it's it's
And also your expectations start to get like really high if you start being too intimate. Like, wow, this team only did 3 stacks.
Yeah.
Like in 2015, but like at the same time, if you're looking for a third pick robot and you're against a really good alliance, but they don't have that, that suddenly becomes viable. And then ultimately, when you lower your expectations, a lot more teams get opened up to you.
But it's not just that. Sometimes like we threw teams on the do not pick list who are like, oh, they like knocked over this like stack of 2 once in a match, right? It's stuff happens in a match, and you know we've knocked over it, our fair share of stacks, and but don't
No, not that specific. Oh my gosh. No,
yeah,
that's not
but
right.
like don't go overboard on the do not pick list. Like this year, we only like we put on a do not pick list a couple of teams that like would get like consistent fouls that would like consistently touch other robots and like
44-7.
that would consistently touch other robots in like the wrong places and just so we had like a couple of teams only, right? So don't go overboard on this. And then if we have time later on, it seems like we're kind of running short. I can go over scorching and declining teams. This has to do with like meta strategy when you actually get to alliance selections, right? Like have you guys heard of like we heard of Scorched Earth?
2013.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
So
16,
Scorched Earth, this is actually very interesting. If we have time, we can go over it. But
Always have time.
We'll make
Well, no, I'm in here.
oh, yeah, actually, you're next.
Yeah.
Is that it? Oh, no. Oh, yeah. So now to the final step, iterate, right? So don't be afraid to change your pick list before line selections. So sometimes, like on the day of, we like modify teams. We see a team is doing really well, or like a team broke. So we like lower them and raise the team that did really well, and it works out. Like trust your gut, but
Trust the data.
yeah, trust the data. Yeah, trust your gut, but trust the data. That's a good way to put it. And if something doesn't work, change it. Don't be afraid to change that either, right? So for a scouting system in 2015, we had a litter count for our first, for our first iteration,
Yeah.
and it turned out that litter was absolutely useless, just absolutely useless.
Mutual agreement.
So we kind of just like took that out of our system of data. And then 2016, low bar crossings. We really didn't care if a team, if a team could do it once, they could do it once. Yeah, that's all we cared about. And then communication. This is something that we personally iterated. So we first had handwritten reports in 2013 to 2014 before I was on the team. And then when we went to an electronic scouting system, we started generating reports to give to the drive coach. But we realized it was really slow and the coach didn't look at it anyway, right? So sometimes you can give them data, but they don't look at it. So we started having a group chat with him, the scouts, and then we just gave him relevant data. And people these days, we're always on our phones, and they can look at it, and they can easily pull out their phone and ask a question. And it's not as fancy as a report, but it's doable and it's workable, right? And it's something that all of us can do. So you don't have to iterate on something that I talked about, but iterate on what you think is broken and should be fixed. And a lot of the stuff that I said today was stuff that works for us. But we're all trying to work towards the same goal, and we all have different ways of getting there, because it's first. So yeah, that's about it. Does anyone have any questions?
Scorched Earth.
Scorched Earth, yeah. Yep.
So on on a group chat,
Yes.
so you would
Fixing the robot, or they're busy driving the robot, or doing all that kind of stuff. So give them what they need to know and only what they need to know. Make sense? All right. Any other questions? Yeah.
So you guys are using a website. So can you talk a little bit about the mechanics of how you do that?
Sure. Specifically,
Like laptops and how do you connect and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So we have. I can actually show you the website. So we have the website up here. So it's
That's cute.
So yeah, we have a different animal every year. So like it's a dino. So
This thing.
it's a dino.
It's
So like
the dinosaur that looks like a
it's a triceratops.
Its face is amazing.
I was just like,
Tried, yeah.
Let's see Uniceratops.
Whatever. Yeah, give the ceratops.
There we go, Uniceratops, I love it.
So we have like different forms. So this is our like ranking, and we can rank teams by different metrics. And like I showed you guys this, right? And we had like uploads of pictures, and we had like lots of different ways of looking at data. But the way this worked was we had on our website, like websites, we have like a server that we can write code on, and it's hosted there. But at events, you don't have internet, right?
Right.
So what we do is we have like a local server running on like one of our laptops, and then we have like an Ethernet hub that we connect all the laptops to, and then we can just, if you have like an Apache server or something like that, you can get the data across. But this year we actually are transitioning, or we're testing out a new system right now at Blitz, where we're using tablets instead of laptops, and we're using USB cables to do port forwarding. We're sort of trying to like simulate a network over USB. So it's kind of weird, but yeah. It doesn't have to be as complicated as this, by the way. Like you can, if you have like an Android app, you can like over Bluetooth. Some teams do this. They like send data over Bluetooth, or like they can have an app that downloads a file, and you can have like another app that you can get all the files from, like over USB, and then it like goes through all the data and interprets it. So, do you have any more specific questions?
No, that's good. We've been talking about doing a tablet type thing too.
Talk to us about it.
So yeah,
we can give you code, like if you want to test it out.
Okay.
Any other questions? Like before Scorched Earth or some of that stuff.
Do you have any, I've looked online for an app for scouting. Do you have any recommendations that are already out there?
There are teams that do publish their stuff, and it is, some of their stuff is cool, but I'm a believer that teams should create their own systems, because like back to the ownership part of it. Like, even if your system isn't as flashy as like another team's system, right? It's something that you made and that you're proud of. So, like, even if it's pen and paper that you were able to, like, upload into, like, an Excel server or something like that, it's not as flashy, but it's works and it's something that you made. So there's, I'm forgetting the team numbers, but you can find them on chief.file. But I would make your own.
It also then specific to what your team has decided is important when you're scouting.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing about the pen and paper too, right? There's some teams that do the pen and paper, but they have one person that does like data input, during the matches. So you can do that too, so you can still have the reports. Right?
Yeah. Like, does that make sense, everyone? Yeah. So you can do that, and that works. It's a little bit tedious, but it works, and it's something that you made. So you're
It's not
happier with.
complicated, right? It's
Yeah.
just simple.
Any other questions? Anything? All right, so Scorched Earth, like we have a couple minutes. So Scorched Earth, it's an aligned selection strategy. I'm just going to tell you about this strategy. I'm not going to tell you if it is moral or not. It's just something that teams have done. So I'm going to draw on the whiteboard. But so let's just say we have the top seeds, right? We have. Wow. No, I'm just gonna do like ABC. Actually, we might as well, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm gonna bring up.
Was it unique to that year too? Like, was
No, it was not.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say maybe it's like some ranking points that allowed that to happen.
That's a long story.
Okay. Also, something I'm looking at Scott. A lot of teams talk
That's
before
all I say.
competition.
I like the one in the middle of it. Aesthetic appreciation.
So, who here doesn't know who 1678 is? Citrus Circuits, like, don't be afraid if you don't. Like, please raise your hand if you don't know who they are. All right, so 1678, they're a team from Davis, California. They won world championships last year. They were world champions. And they've been, like, to finals of, like, championships, like, for the last 4 or 5 years in a row. They're a phenomenal team, and, they deserve everything they've done. But 2013, I think, was, or they weren't as known in 2013. That was like the first year they,
Was
you
it a
know,
breakout?
yeah, that was like the first year they became really good. They became really good. So on their division at Champs, Curie, we can kind of go through the rankings of it a little bit. Do you guys know how alliance selection works?
Yeah.
Where like if like number one can choose any team, but if a team like declines, another alliance can't choose them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So like someone outside of the top 8 cannot really decline, or else they won't play, right? So we had 1678 was at the top, and then we had 1983. They're Skunkworks. They're from Washington, I believe. And you had a bunch of really good teams that year. You had 1310, 1717. Rip. Actually, this doesn't.
I mean, they're going back for 58-18.
Yeah, 5818. 5818 is good.
No, I mean like, swerve, I don't know, man. They bring
But
back
so 1678 isn't really as known. People don't like them for some reason that year. Okay, so a lot of times what happens is like these teams talk amongst each other, and they're 1678 can go to 1983 and say, "Hey, I want to pick you," before like alliance selection starts. So they can like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like they can talk before alliance selection starts. And 1983 can say like, "Hey, if you decide to pick us, we're gonna say no." Does that make sense? So what can happen is, like, if a lot of these teams say, hey, no, we're going to say no if you try to pick us, they can try to divide up all the other alliances. Okay? So they won't pick 1983, but if 4814, or let's say 2056, who's phenomenal that year, if they try to pick them, and 2056 says no, which happened, 2056 said no. That means that 1983 cannot pick 2056. And they went through a couple of these teams. I forgot exactly what
went
teams.
through about 5 or 6.
Yeah, like 5 teams, and 5 teams said no. Okay?
Right? And the more you say no, the more you screw yourself.
Right? Because like that means that 1983 you can't pick, that team, that team, that team. So like usually a lot of the like powerful teams are at the top, right? So what happens is a lot of these teams say no, and then they can pick the next best team out of below top 8 if no one says. So if someone says yes, good for them, they get a good team, right? But if someone says no, good for them, no one else can get that team either. So what they did was they essentially divided up all the alliances that year.
One good team, one poop team.
That's one way you can think of it, right? So they got one good team, and they actually got a good team that was mediocre. Like, it was weird. But they got that, but everyone else didn't get a good alliance. So we can kind of look at what happened. Yeah, so if you take a look at this, right? 1678 chose 148. They were out of the top 8. 148 is good, but they were okay that year. And they won that division, by the way. And then 1983 couldn't choose any of the other teams, so they had to choose someone outside of the top 8. And same with everyone else. So this robot's awesome. This robot's awesome. I forgot about that robot, but that robot's awesome. 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 And out of the rest of the robots, only this robot's like eh. So they just did a clean sweep that year, like in elimination, like everyone lost them, because they were able to successfully divide up all the other alliances. Anyone have any questions about that? It's kind of sketchy. I'm not going to tell you if it's moral or not, but it's what happens.
I think it's totally moral, right?
Yeah.
It's because all the other guys said they were going to. Anybody could have said yes.
Yeah, anyone could have said yes. Like the issue is, teams don't sometimes see what's going on. Like so actually 3309 did something in 2014 or 20. They stopped the scorched earth at LA. I remember there was a scorched earth.
Oh no, it was Blue Thunder. I think it was
Yeah,
Blue
Blue
I don't
Thunder.
know why what that was involved with.
Yeah, so essentially 3309 said yes, breaking the cycle. Like even though they
Unknowingly
knew that they
involved.
couldn't win, but like another powerful alliance was able to form, and they were. But 3309 broke that cycle. So it's.
Well, it's like the best way to go, especially because like they can actually get you below you. We were happy enough to rank high enough that year. Although I don't know if that's what was going through our minds.
That's what Mark told me. So I.
Well, then then it was Mark.
What you say is, your scouting, you might want to consider figuring out who would not want to play whoever.
Yes.
You're going to figure out how to use it for your
Yeah, that's very important, right? So yeah.
Do you think they actually were trying to do that, or it's just the year that everybody wanted to do that?
They were trying to do that. It was ingenious. I mean, they talk to them. You know, they're like, hey, you know, if you want to pick you, would you say yes? And like, you know, we've done that too. Like that happened. Well, like this year we weren't that high ranked at champs. But like, you know, we talked to teams, and you know, they were like, oh yeah, we want to pick you, we don't want to pick you. And some of that information can. So, yeah. Any other questions?
But I mean, the other teams below them try to intimidate you.
Yeah.
Right?
What?
A lot of times when you're in that role and people tell you ahead of time, hey, don't pick us, we're gonna say no. They're trying to intimidate you, they're trying to manipulate you too. Right?
Yeah.
There's mind games going on outside the robot.
I could go on like for this for a long time. Like Inland Empire, this like the entire thing happened. With like 973 and us in like 359 and just, like massive like. Yeah. Okay. John has a presentation to give, so if anyone has any questions, I'll be outside. So come talk to me. I don't bite. And
Hi guys, so if you're in here for outreach and marketing, you can stay here. If not, get out.
Fixing the robot, or they're busy driving the robot, or doing all that kind of stuff. So give them what they need to know and only what they need to know. Make sense? All right. Any other questions? Yeah.
So you guys are using a website. So can you talk a little bit about the mechanics of how you do that?
Sure. Like specifically, like
laptops and how do you connect and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So we have. I can actually show you the website. So we have the website up here. So it's.
That's cute.
So yeah, we have a different animal every year. So like it's a dino. So it's a dino. So like it's a triceratops.
Its face is amazing.
That's how the website works.
Whatever. Yeah, give the ceratops.
There we go, use ceratops. I love it.
So we have like different forms. So this is sort of like ranking, and we can rank teams by different metrics. And like I showed you guys this, right? And we had like uploads of pictures, and we had like lots of different ways of looking at data. But the way this worked was we had on our website, like websites, we have like a server that we can write code on, and it's hosted there. But at events, you don't have internet, right?
Right.
So what we do is we have like a local server running on like one of our laptops, and then we have like an Ethernet hub that we connect all the laptops to, and then we can just, if you have like an Apache server or something like that, you can get the data across. But this year we actually are transitioning, or we're testing out a new system right now at Blitz, where we're using tablets instead of laptops, and we're using USB cables to do port forwarding. But we're sort of trying to like simulate a network over USB. So it's kind of weird, but yeah. It doesn't have to be as complicated as this, by the way. Like you can, if you have like an Android app, you can like over Bluetooth. Some teams do this. They like send data over Bluetooth, or like they can have an app that downloads a file, and you can have like another app that you can get all the files from, like over USB, and then like goes through all the data and interprets it. So, do you have any more specific questions?
No, that's good. We've been talking about doing a tablet type thing too.
Talk to us about it.
So yeah,
we can give you code, like if you want to test it out.
Okay.
Any other questions? Like before Scorched Earth or some of that stuff.
Do you have any, I've looked online for an app for police scouting. Do you have any recommendations that are already out there?
There are teams that do publish their stuff, and it is, some of their stuff is cool, but I'm a believer that teams should create their own systems, because like back to the ownership part of it. Like, even if your system isn't as flashy as like another team's system, right? It's something that you made and that you're proud of. So, like, even if it's pen and paper that you were able to, like, upload into, like, an Excel server or something like that, it's not as flashy, but it's works and it's something that you made. So there's, I'm forgetting the team numbers, but you can find them on chief.file. But I would make your own.
It's also then specific to what your team has decided is important when you're scouting.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing about the pen and paper too, right? There's some teams that do the pen and paper, but they have one person that does like data input, during the matches. So you can do that too, so you can still have the reports. Right?
Yeah. Like Does that make sense, everyone?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you can do that, and that works. You know, it's a little bit tedious, but it works, and it's something that you made. So you're
It's not
happier with.
complicated, right? It's
Yeah.
just simple.
Any other questions? Anything? All right, so Scorched Earth. Like, we have a couple minutes. So Scorched Earth. It's an alliance selection strategy. I'm just going to tell you about this strategy. I'm not going to tell you if it is moral or not. It's just something that teams have done. So I'm going to draw on the whiteboard. But so let's just say we have the top seeds, right? We have. Wow. No, I'm just gonna do like ABC. Actually, we might as well, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm gonna bring up.
Was it unique to that year too? Like, was
No, it was not.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say maybe it's like some ranking points that allowed that to happen.
That's a long story.
Okay. Also, something I'm talking about, Scott. A lot of teams talk before competition.
I like the one in the movie. Aesthetic appreciation.
So, who here doesn't know who 1678 is? Citrus Circuits, like, don't be afraid if you don't. Like, please raise your hand if you don't know who they are. Alright, so 1678, they're a team from Davis, California. They won world championships last year. They were world champions. And they've been, like, to finals of, like, you know, championships, like, for the last 4 or 5 years in a row. They're a phenomenal team, and, you know, they deserve everything they've done. But 2013, I think, was, or they weren't as known in 2013. That was like the first year they,
Was
you
it a
know,
breakout?
yeah, that was like the first year they became really good. They became really good. So on their division at Champs, Curie, we can kind of go through the rankings of it a little bit. Do you guys know how alliance selection works?
Yeah.
Where like if like number 1 can choose any team, but if a team like declines, another alliance can't choose them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So like someone outside of the top 8 cannot really decline, or else they won't play, right? So we had 1678 was at the top, and then we had 1983. They're Skunkworks. They're from Washington, I believe. And you had a bunch of really good teams that year. You had 1310, 1717. Rip. Actually, this doesn't.
I mean, they're going back to 58-18.
Yeah, 58-18. 58-18 is good.
No, I mean like, swerve, I don't know, man. They bring
But
that
so 1678 isn't really as known. People don't like them for some reason that year. Okay, so a lot of times what happens is like these teams talk amongst each other, and they're 1678 can go to 1983 and say, "Hey, I want to pick you," before like alliance selection starts. So they can like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like they can talk before alliance selection starts. And 1983 can say like, "Hey, if you decide to pick us, we're gonna say no." Does that make sense? So what can happen is, like, if a lot of these teams say, hey, no, we're going to say no if you try to pick us, they can try to divide up all the other alliances. Okay? So they won't pick 1983, but if 4814, or let's say 2056, who's phenomenal that year, if they try to pick them, and 2056 says no, which happened, 2056 said no. That means that 1983 cannot pick 2056. And they went through a couple of these teams. I forgot exactly what
went
teams.
through about 5 or 6.
Yeah, like 5 teams, and 5 teams said no. Okay?
Right? And the more you say no, the more you screw yourself.
Right? Because like that means that 1983 you can't pick, you know, that team, that team, that team. So like usually a lot of the like powerful teams are at the top, right? So what happens is a lot of these teams say no, and then they can pick the next best team out of, you know, below top 8 if no one says. So if someone says yes, good for them, they get a good team, right? But if someone says no, good for them, no one else can get that team either. So what they did was they essentially divided up all the alliances that year.
One good team, one poop team.
That's one way you can think of it, right? So they got one good team, and they actually got a good team that was mediocre. Like, it was weird. But they got that, but everyone else didn't get a good alliance. So we can kind of look at what happened. Yeah, so if you take a look at this, right? 1678 chose 148. They were out of the top 8. 148 is good, but you know they were okay that year. And they won that division, by the way. And then 1983 couldn't choose any of the other teams, so they had to choose someone outside of the top 8. And same with everyone else. So you know, this robot's awesome. This robot's awesome. I forgot about that robot, but that robot's awesome. 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 And out of the rest of the robots, only this robot's like eh. So they just did a clean sweep that year, like in elimination. Like everyone lost them because they were able to successfully divide up all the other alliances. Anyone have any questions about that? It's kind of sketchy. I'm not going to tell you if it's moral or not, but it's what happened.
I think it's totally moral, right?
Yeah.
It's because all the other guys said they were going to. Anybody could have said yes.
Yeah, anyone could have said yes. Like the issue is teams don't sometimes see what's going on. Like so actually 3309 did something in 2014 or 20. They stopped the scorched earth at LA. I remember there was a scorched earth.
Oh no, it was Blue Thunder. I think it was.
Yeah, Blue
I
Thunder.
don't know why. What that was involved with.
Yeah, so essentially 3309 said yes, breaking the cycle. Like even though they
Unknowingly
knew that they
followed.
couldn't win, but like another powerful alliance was able to form, and they were. But 3309 broke that cycle. So it's.
Well, it's like the best way to go, especially because like they can actually get you below you. We were happy to have to rank high enough that year. Although I don't know if that's what was going through our minds.
That's what Mark told me. So I.
Well, then then it was Mark.
What you would say is, your scouting, you might consider figuring out who would not want to play whatever.
Yes.
You're gonna figure out how to use it for your band.
Yeah, that's very important, right? So yeah.
Do you think they actually were trying to do that, or it's just the year that everybody wanted to?
They were trying to do that. It was ingenious. I mean, they talked to them. They're like, hey, if you want to pick you, would you say yes? And like, we've done that too. Like, that happened. Well, like this year we weren't that high ranked at champs. But like, we talked to teams, and they were like, oh yeah, we want to pick you, we don't want to pick you. And some of that information can. So, yeah. Any other questions?
But I mean, the other teams, below them try to intimidate you.
Yeah.
Right?
What?
A lot of times when you're in that role and people tell you ahead of time, hey, don't pick us, we're gonna say no. They're trying to intimidate you, they're trying to manipulate you too. Right?
Yeah.
There's mind games going on outside the robot.
I could go on like for this for a long time. Like Inland Empire, this is like the entire thing happened. With like 973 and us in like 359 and like massive like. Yeah. Okay. John has a presentation to give, so if anyone has any questions, I'll be outside. So come talk to me. I don't bite. And
Alright guys, so if you're in here for outreach and marketing, you can stay here. If not, get out.